meeting is being recorded.
Yay! It is being recorded. Welcome, welcome. This is the Jupyter community call for October 2022. Hooray! Happy almost Halloween if you care about that. I do, so I'm sending it out to you, but I know that is not a global concern. Today we have a couple exciting things on the agenda. It makes me happy always to walk in with things ready to go. And yeah, we are going to get started, but the things that I need to tell you at the beginning of every call are, one, this is being recorded. We know that. We heard that. The omnipresent Zoom voice just told us. Two, this is a Jupyter community event. As such, we are held to the Jupyter Code of Conduct, and that includes everyone here, even me. You can find that at any time at jupyter.org/conduct. And of course, please tell me if I mispronounce your name. I keep trying to be better about that, but if I don't know, I can't fix it. And I would really love to respect you all as you deserve. So with that, we are going to follow the agenda. I'm going to link it one more time in case anyone appeared while I was talking. But basically what we're going to be doing today is following this in order. Some people have already added things, but we have room on the agenda, so I kind of expect it to change a little as we continue throughout. You can also take notes here. Please sign in if you feel so inclined. It's super cool to know who is here. And yeah, with that, we're just gonna get sharing. But the first thing we have on the list is, where are my short reports? I think we might have one, but HackMD does the weird cursor problem sometimes. Or was that a sign in? Okay, no. Do we have any short reports that people want to start with? We had a bunch of cats before the call, actually. I'll start there. Anyone want to add cat info?
Jupyter Hub is participating in Outreach this round, and we have had a ton of applicants. That's super exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I will add that.
That's awesome.
Tony, do you want to say one?
No, I was curious, with Outreach, do you have to do like a statement of work for them, or is it just like we're looking for interns and choose somebody?
We're looking for interns and choose somebody. So we do put a project description out there. It's not really as formal as a statement of work, because Outreach is very clear that these are not contractors. It is a learning opportunity. So yeah, we have a project description, and then they contribute and submit a final application, and then we rank and choose one.
Really great. It seems like it's growing a lot.
Yeah, that is wonderful to hear. I'm excited. I hope we get to meet whoever you end up working with at one of these calls. I know that may not be the case, but they're welcome. I love seeing people join in. I also am going to add an impromptu share if I can remember what I was. Oh, yes. We had about 2 weeks ago, a group of people do some keyboard navigation testing on the Notebook 7 pre-release. I just wanted to say that was really cool. Thanks for people trying to do collaborative accessibility tests with me. I really enjoy it. I think it's super cool. I hope that we get to do more of that in the future. So kind of just a heads up and maybe get you all curious. That was a really awesome thing. Yeah.
Python 3.11 was released yesterday. Hooray. If you try to use it on GitHub Actions, they don't yet have macOS available. The last one they had was RC1. So there's no macOS for RC2 or the final yet, if you wanted to use it in GitHub Actions. But we are using the -dev one in several places like Jupyter Server. So hopefully we don't get caught too off guard by this release, but it's an exciting release. It has like depending on which benchmark you look at, it could be like 60% improvement in speed. They've been investing heavily in that. So very exciting.
What language features are new in 3.11? Is that pattern matching and stuff?
I don't remember if pattern matching is in this one or 3.10. But there's like task groups for async IO.
Nice.
I can't remember what else.
Oh, you already did the other hard work. Sorry to stump you on this one.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for letting us know. That sounds promising, but you know how it goes. We'll see. Anyone else? I'm going to be quiet for a few seconds, give y'all more ideas for short report shout outs. Excitement. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Those were good. I love being surprised by these every month because I always forget to put them in ahead of time, and I think other people do too. So it's always like, what happened? But with that, we will go on to the rest of the agenda items. Oh, yay, we have 3 on here today. That's wonderful. All that means is I'm going to be watching with time. I'm saying I think about 15 minutes per person will be pretty safe. Just so you all are aware, it's pretty normal, but I will be watching. So yay, it's time for the feature film. Jan Hendrik and Ricky, I believe, are you first?
Yes, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then I will share my screen. And probably you should hear me now, and you should see what I see.
I hear you, and I see a plywood gallery slide deck.
Perfect. Then I enter full screen mode. And yeah, so today Ricky and I will present something about the plywood gallery. And it's an idea to bring example branching into Python documentation via notebooks. And like very short introduction, I'm Jan Hendrik. You can call me Hendrik, and I'm a biophysicist and currently working in developing tools for science communication. And I'm giving to Ricky for introduction.
Yep. Hey guys, I'm the co-presenter here, and I'm currently a full-time university student working towards a computer engineering degree, and I'll be explaining the VS Code end of this. Back to Hendrik.
Cool, thanks. Okay, so the plywood gallery is a new framework to generate Python documentation via notebooks. And the special feature is that code snippets are represented by images. And the one very unique thing that makes it, that is possible then is to show code variations with example branching. And to show you what is meant by this, here's a short demo. So this is a web page, and here you have cells. And here you have a short frame, and you can click on the cells, and then the corresponding Python code will appear at the top. And yeah, as you might have guessed, these code cells are generated by Jupyter notebooks. Here's another example for functions plotted with matplotlib, and most of them generated with NumPy. Yeah, and to get started with this, or like a bit of background. So this is how a normal Python script looks, or like how documentation with strings generated would look like. So you have here the code block, here then some images or some other outputs. And the idea of the plywood gallery is to split these examples into smaller chunks. So like this, here at the top we have a block which I call the header block, which has the imports of modules, and then definitions of variables of functions. And then in the second part, you have these specific things that generate this plot. And by this separation, it's possible to branch these examples. So you can have the same header, but on the one hand, this blue pie chart here. On the other hand, this green pie chart with a code that is slightly different, but kind of similar to the first one. And in the plywood gallery, these examples are not shown, but the code is now wrapped in the image, so that you kind of have all the information just in the image. And the blue frame indicates that it comes from this example block. And when you have the header block, you can do the same. And here with an orange border, I indicate that it's the header cell. Okay, then we just need a frame where the code can be displayed. And then you can click on these cells and the code will appear. And yeah, next I will show like some demos about Jupyter generated documentation web pages. So where this can be used, or why we can see what is possible. So this you've already seen in the beginning. This is 2D NumPy arrays where you can just click on some, and then you can see here like a circle, a Gaussian distribution, all kind of patterns are possible. Here is another one which I also showed in the beginning. That's for mathematical functions. So it's like a cheat sheet where you can quickly access these things that you use on a regular basis, or which you just want to have like nicely represented. Here's another one for pathlib. So sometimes when one works with paths, it's maybe nice to have like a visual aid where you are right now. So this can be used. And another thing is that you don't have to use actually Python generated images, but you can use any images you want. So here I was thinking, okay, maybe it's nice to have an emoji, which is a mnemonic for your code. So here down there, you can click on this folder icon, and it will show you, okay, here path.makeDear is in this. Here's another one for Napari. That's a 3D imaging library, which some of you might know. And there you can see how these slide code changes also go together with the slide visual changes. This is, for example, here with the axis, where you can see, okay, how are the axes colored, how are they dashed, and it's really bringing the information down to the bare minimum and not having this huge documentation pages which you sometimes have. There are some example galleries which I just created over the last few weeks. Here is one, these ones you've seen already. And they are actually in iframes. So in this presentation, you can even click them and try them out. So after this presentation, you can, or like after the community call, you can go to them and try it yourself and see how this is going. Okay, next we come to the installation and the quick start. So you can simply type pip install private gallery, then open Python, import the quick start. Then there's a gallery config file where you bring in all the description, your title of the project, some other information that you want to give the users about the project. And then there is a generate HTML function, which then translates this config file into an index.html file. You can open it and you can add your examples. This is how it looks in VS Code. So I have here about 10 files which were added by the quick start. Here you have gallery assets, then you have here the index.html. There are like some notebooks, the config file. Yeah. And here on the live server, you can see the gallery. And basically, when you now want to share your galleries with other people, you commit these changes to GitHub. It's just one push. You go to settings, you go to GitHub pages, click on branches main, click enter, and it will automatically generate the website where you can share your snippets with other people. Next comes the creation of a gallery. So after using the quick start, you have the notebook, which looks like this. You have here on the right side an instance where you have like the live server open. And now you can define your chapters. So for example, now I want to have the first chapter named functions. Then here like some other information which you might want to add to it. And the important part is now these two lines. This is the cell header, and that's the cell normal. Here I define some properties about the cell magic. So for example, this is a header type. It has this and this CSS styles, which are phrased through the notebook. And now in the cell itself, which I want to show, I have here this cell magic, which takes then this header cell and then brings all this information to the index.html page. Yeah, and then I can just click on play, and then you will see in live, in real time, how the notebook is generated. So it just takes milliseconds to get into, like, from your plots into your web page. And one really nice thing about it, it's like a visual version control system, because you can execute a cell again and again, and you will always get a new entry. And this makes it possible to also go back to previous versions without using Git and getting confused with what image links to what information. Yeah, so much from my side. And now I will give the mic to Ricky, who will tell you about the VS Code extension about this project.
Yep, thank you very much, Hendrik. So first off, what is Plywood Gallery VS Code extension? Well, it's an extension that allows us to integrate Plywood Gallery right into the editor so that you can use and insert the code snippets that comes from the documentation right into your files and your Jupyter notebooks. Yep, next slide, please. Now, as with all VS Code extensions, we'll have to first install them from the official VS Code store. And that's pretty easy. If you've used VS Code before, you have to hover over to the extension marketplace. And now you can find the extension by the name Plywood Gallery for VS Code. And once you found it, it should be the first result. And pressing install will get you installed very, very quickly. Yep. Once you've installed the extension, you'll be able to install galleries that have been published privately or publicly. And if you look on the left side of this VS Code window here, you'll see two specific parts. One, the upper one says galleries, the bottom one says recommended galleries. The upper one is for your installed galleries. There are two sections, remote galleries and local galleries. For the second one, recommended galleries is a list of galleries that you can instantly install just by clicking on it, and it should go right into it should be downloaded right into your directories. And we can see that here in the video. And opening the downloaded gallery is as easy as clicking the open button that was shown in the download indicator, or from the tab that we can see there on the left, in the top left, galleries, remote galleries, you can see a new entry being entered, pathlib, which is what we just installed. And finally, for inserting the code. Inserting the code with the extension is pretty neat. All you have to do is, once you've opened the gallery, you just have to place your cursor in the cell of the Jupyter notebook that you like to insert the code into. Or if you're using a normal Python file, just place your cursor down at the level of indentation that you want to paste the code into. And after you've done that, just click on the image and the code should be inserted right into your editor, just like we can see here in the example video. Yep. All right. So that concludes our our project called Plywood Gallery. Thank you guys so much for paying attention and listening to us.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for presenting. This is awesome. I'm really glad to see this demo. I've kind of run into this project around, so thank you for taking the time to be here. I see at least one question in the chat. Tony, do you want to ask that, or do you want me to read it?
So if this is a VS Code extension, can we use it on like github.dev?
Oh, not yet, but I plan to publish it as a VSX extension so that you're able to use it on other open source platforms that you can download VS Code extensions on.
That'll be killer. It'll be great to like get your hands right on this demo immediately. Yeah, cool stuff, guys. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks for the suggestion.
Sarah, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I might have misunderstood what you meant by the code snippets are represented as images. I think this idea is really cool. And like the first thing I think of when I see clicking an image and getting the code snippet is I immediately want to copy the code snippet to put into my. So that code box, does that have like a copy button where I can get like the raw Python? Or did I misunderstand what we meant by images there?
Yeah, so this thing that you saw at the top, this is a like a box which has text. At the moment, I didn't implement a copy button yet, but this would be easy to implement. And so what I mean with the images are represented with code is you can think of it as the alt text of the image. And yeah, it's basically saved in a JSON file with where the code and the image is identified as one thing together.
Nice. So copy button incoming.
Well,
Yes.
weren't you showing, maybe I misunderstood too, but there were some cases where you selected the image and right, it changes like the feedback in the main, in the raw notebook, whatever the source was. And so you could copy it from there, but you're saying like an instant copy? Or did I just misunderstand?
I'm thinking if I'm like, say Pathlib publishes all of their documentation using plywood. I don't know a Pathlib thing. I come along to their documentation. I find their plywood example. Do I get a copy button to immediately take that snippet back?
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that's awesome. Any other questions? I'm going to be quiet for a few seconds.
Are there any designers on this team? I really like the Pathlib diagram. And I'm wondering how much having some formal design around this experience might improve, the product.
No, I did these designs all by myself, and but I would be really happy to bring in some designers on this project. So if you know somebody who could help that out, I would be more than happy.
Yeah, it's hard going having designers in this space, but these some of these tools and some of these things that you're doing, they're really great, and I think that some formal design around them will be really radical.
I totally meant to ask you and then didn't also. I can link you to a community of open source designers who I know have boards where sometimes people go to ask for work, but also can you send us a link to your repo for this or documentation or whatever you see fit so we can track this down later?
Yes, I've actually made a thread in Discourse, in Jupyter Discourse. I will quickly look that up.
Awesome. Thank you. I think I am also just about to link you to a discourse actually, in terms of, yeah, okay, awesome.
Yeah, I just double checked. Yeah, there you find the information about where you find the repo, the examples, and also the presentation that you just saw.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I definitely have more questions, but I'm also trying to keep things moving for people. But yeah, thank you for being here today and sharing with us. That was a really clean presentation. I love that you covered some of the install too. It's like good kind of living documentation for us for a little bit. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you both. In that case, next on the agenda, we have deathbeds, which I happen to know is Tony and Nick. Be ready? You're not ready because you're muted, but I see your mouth moving. Okay.
Now we should be good. You should be seeing y'all. Now you see a notebook?
Correct.
Excellent. All right. Happy Halloween, everybody. So Nick and I are going to do a presentation today. I'm probably going to talk at Nick, and then we'll let him go. But I am not trying to convince anybody of anything today. It's early in the morning. I haven't finished my pot of coffee yet, but I just want everybody to get thinking on my level, my very early morning groggy level here. Yeah, so we're gonna see some new tools today, and I think one of the questions that I have, all right, while y'all are watching this, count the demos. We want to know how many demos we do in the next 15 or 20 minutes. So, let us know how many you think show up, and we'll get going. We're going to get going right now. So first thing I'm going to do is drop into the new Jupyter deck, which is an alternative to Rise that Nick has been working on. And the next thing I'm going to do is collapse all code. And then
you're
the
going to full
next thing I'm
screen.
going to do, what?
And then you're going to full screen because I don't want your browser Chrome.
All right, man. All right, I got you. I'm sorry. Here we go. We'll hit this. Fine, full screen Zoom. Is that better? You happy now? Cool. All right. So then we're gonna restart and run all the cells because restart and run all, or it didn't happen. And then we're gonna get going. Oh boy. Yeah, sometimes navigation gets going. All right. So what we're gonna talk about today is Markdown and Python. The reason we're going to talk about this is because notebooks are made of this. There's a really strict boundary between Markdown and Python that we have in the cells. And I'm super curious about what happens if Markdown and Python can interact a little bit more. What kind of stories can we tell here? So I think right now, especially in open source, it's really important to understand the history of computing sometimes when we're solving these problems, right? Redoing old people's problems are not what we want to be doing. So we want to move forward here. And one of the things I want to kind of hammer home is this consistent theme of literacy and throughout computer science. In Computer Programming for All, which is the proposal that got DARPA funded, they compare a mass ability to read and write software with mass literacy and predict equally pervasive changes to society. So Python is designed with the idea of mass literacy in mind. Donald Knuth, the creator of tech, wrote a paper called Literate Programming. Literary machines came after that, and it presented a hyperworld and hypermedia and hypertext and transclusion. We got the World Wide Web. We saw computer programming for everybody, and the computer programming as a literacy is going to be important. IPython showed up a little bit later, and Markdown came after that. And then we got our IPython notebooks and Anaconda. And around 2013, Fernando wrote a blog post that compares how literate programming in the notebook is a little bit different than the traditional concept of literate programming. So he comes to this idea of literate computing, where we're writing stories and code at the same time. There's a great summary of all of these things, which called Understanding Computer Programming as a Literacy. This is written by Annette V, where she kind of goes through and summarizes a lot of this history in really good detail. Little bit after that, we got the birth and death of JavaScript, which is super important given the situation we have with Jupyter Lite now. We've got the big split, Jupyter Lab and Jupyter Lite. So this is kind of a history, right? And Jupyter fits right in line with literate programming and literate computing through time. So literate programming is a concept where your input has multiple uses. So you can take your input and you can tangle it to code, or you can weave it to an output. Now, this is an old format where the input file type was called web, and they wrote Tech and Pascal from it. We are going to make Python and Markdown. But one of the reasons I have this graph here is I'm recreating the one above, but I can just do it right in a Markdown cell. Good to go. And I'm even doing something weird that we'll find out about later on, where I'm defining variables at the same time. But I want to talk a little bit more about tangle and weave here. When we tangle, oh, did I lose something? Nope, we're good. So when we tangle, we are translating the input into code. So in my case, I want to take Markdown and turn it into Python. And then I want to take that computed state and show it. And that's what we're doing here as we're going through this presentation. This is really an example of the power of this approach. So how does IPython? When you submit a run cell, when you run your cell, what does it do? It goes through the kernel and does a do execute method. It runs the cell, and then it does a bunch of transformations. This is how magics work. This is how we get some await and asynchronous stuff in the past. So the first step of running the code is actually to tangle it. And then when we have that last object there and we show it, that is a weaving step. So what do we have? How can we think about this as a little program? So let's say I've got a program and it says this markdown file is a program. Indented code in markdown, right? That's code. So I can do a little line continuation. And if this was quoted, then it becomes a string. So that's what my tool's doing here. So we made a little markdown file, and now we can go and run it. We can go and modify it, and we're running it as a command line here. This is a markdown file. When we go and look at it, let me go here and pop open some more code. Enter. We can import this program. Now, when we import it, we see that it's actually importing directly from a markdown file. Our variables are stored inside of it. It's super cool. I'm writing literature that's a program at this point. The markdown program, it's like any other module. In fact, it compiles to, oh boy, I hate when I get stuck in this little state here. Pardon. Get back there. Okay. So compiles to compiled Python, right? Our markdown code is now PyYC. Very weird idea. So I'm going to jump out real quick. This is another power of Jupyter deck, and we're going to go and do some demos, and of course restart and run all, or it didn't happen. So I'm going to show you a few quick demos of what life might be like in a more literate computing frame of mind. So this is our cookie demo here. Okay, so we're going to go and run, hide these things. All right, so now we go through, and we've got 3 displays here. This is important. We've got a few different ways to show things in IPython and make them interactive. We can use widgets, or we can use the displays directly. So I've got a little widget guy here. Where is my widget? There it is. Now when I drag this, everything's updating. With very little work, I'll show you what one of these cells looks like. It's a little Jinja templating. It knows what my widgets are, and it can go and update things. Very little work, I'm creating an application. We've got another little demo here of some iframes. So let's go and do this. I'm just going to hit run interact. And now all of a sudden, all my displays pop up, and I've got all these iframes. And I can even go and just change this. And the cells in the past, if I hit run interact, we see that now it updated. So we've got these cool ways to interact. And I'm going to pop out real quick, and then I'm going to show you one more thing. We're going to jump over into Voila. And we just ran this notebook as Voila. So now we've got a web app. Just only one of these is working because Voila works off of widgets. The rest of these displays aren't working. But I'm here to dizzy you and make you think a little bit. But we just made a simple application with Jinja templates. So let me pop back over here, and then we're going to finish this up. So if I pop open this cell, we can import things. And now when we import things, I can actually go and take my graphs from those imported things and reuse them. When have we done this? When have we thought about this? The idea that stuff that we're writing doesn't always go to waste. I am in a bad state. Collapse all code. Okay. So I'm not saying importing markdown is a good idea. It can be done. CoffeeScript died. Liter CoffeeScript died. But maybe this can be done. Maybe it was too soon. If what I'm really trying to drive home here, so we've imported, I think I skipped over a little bit here. We imported a notebook, we imported a markdown file, we imported a presentation, we imported a piece of literature. What else does that mean? Can we Docker up a paper? Can we import a docx? What is the power of markdown at this point? It's getting us to do things. It's a program. How many readmes have influenced us? So that kind of gets me to the end here, where these documents are the start of something. They're not the end of something anymore. They should grow and they should flourish. And one of the ways we can do that is by using Jupyter Lab. So now I've just dropped into my blog here, and I'm running in a completely browser-based state of things, and all of my code is still working. And we have a very incredible example of reusing a presentation, reusing a piece of literature as code and software. And that's what I want folks to think about here. So I'm gonna stop, and hopefully y'all aren't too glassy-eyed at this point. Yep.
Well, do we wanna put in chat how many demos people thought that was per
No,
request?
let Nick go. We're gonna keep
Okay.
we're gonna keep counting.
Oh, you're
We're gonna
going
keep
still.
counting.
Sorry.
We're gonna keep counting. We're not done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look at all you people. Hello. All right. Oh man, that was that's what I get for working on my deck while I'm writing it. All right. So a big part of what you just saw was the previous version of a program called Jupyter Deck. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. It's Jupyter notebooks. Books. I don't know. Whatever. What are you going to do? I'm going to hide this because I don't need that. I'm going to talk a little bit about Deathbed's two products that we've just launched or released in the last couple of days of JupyterLab Fonts and JupyterLab Deck. Show some examples of using those in Jupyter Lite and some examples of testing those with Robot Framework, which also got some new releases to support this talk. So that's what happens. So the quick thing is I'm going to run through a couple notebooks here. First one is the history of presenting with notebooks. We got some folks have some historical perspective in this call, but some other folks might not. Just a quick rundown of the README testing notebook for JupyterLab Deck, and show you guys a live example of a deck used for a specific purpose with Jupyter Lite. So let's roll back to this guy. Boom. Okay. So this is also meant for docs, so it's got some more things. So what's the problem, right? When you present from, come on, let's go big. When you present from a notebook, there's a lot of stuff on the screen. That's why I got all up in Tony's face, because we don't need 30% of the screen when he's going to be putting 1,000 words on it to be taken up by his browser bars and showing us his tabs and his bookmarks and all that. So when you present from a rich application like JupyterLab, like VS Code, like PowerPoint, if you're not thinking about your audience, they end up looking at the buttons, right? Especially if they're not familiar with it, and that's more common in Jupyter. And then sometimes we make choices in how we present stuff on the screen. If that scroll bar shows up, I did it wrong. I wasn't trying hard enough, and I didn't think about what I was thinking of. And that leads to basically not using it big enough so that you can see what's actually on the screen. So, let's put all these things together. What's a tool that we could use to help move that forward? And so one of the first places that we saw that was NB Convert adding a Reveal.js based template. And so it was fun. It was really fun. I was, shortly around thereafter, and it was really a great time. It was doing stuff people hadn't seen before. You really can't do a lot that you want in Reveal because there's just things it won't do. It's highly opinionated about how a lot of style things work. It's going to make some decisions for you, but you get a lot of benefits. It works pretty well on mobile, and it's relatively lightweight. And now there's fairly good extensions because they actually made it importable. NB Viewer adapted that. So any notebook that you make, if you put in slide metadata, it'll show a little button for you to show that on NB Viewer. And so that's a great way to really quickly publish something globally without setting up too much infrastructure. A gist is enough. Anywhere on the internet is enough. It's not like you have to stand up Kubernetes. And so pretty much we're stuck with those slide type metadata, and it's not quite in the Jupyter Notebook JSON schema, but it probably should be. But all these solutions still left you with static HTML. Then what if this was more of an interactive state? What if instead of the notebook being the precursor to the consumed experience, if the authoring of the notebook was the experience? And so I need to go back. So Rise by our friend Damian Avila, Steering Council on Jupyter, all that, took some of the stuff in Notebook Classic and combined it with Reveal.js DOM, yielding this thing. Not everything that works in Rise is going to work in the NB Convert reveal, and not everything that works in NB Convert is going to work in Rise. So, you know, you kind of bought a lot if you buy into that system. You basically have to present from Rise if you go down that road. However, it's proven very difficult to make it hard to get this into Jupyter Lab, which is, you know, the more extensible environment and the one that we're actively maintaining and improving on and adding new difficult features that would be hard in the classic infrastructure. A couple years back, a few of y'all were there. I wrote a little thing for a little company that makes a little Python distribution, and it was way crazy. You know, it took the notebook format, it turned it into not quite a drawing program, but you know, it was doing as bad or worse things to Rise, and it made some metadata decisions that were way off the bat. There's some cool stuff in here. If you go visit the Jupyter Lab deck site after this, you can check it out. So anyhow, basically, I want to figure out how to, oh yeah, and there's Jupyter Lab Draw.io, which lets you put more stuff into there. Archive Draw.io lets you do even more drawing stuff, and we'll get to some of that in a sec. So basically, you know, what can you do offline? What can you do without a SaaS server? Because if your message is in one of those things and that goes away, you're done. So yeah, we'll have a little bit of that in a sec. So anyhow, Jupyter Lab Deck was informed by all of that, and it's trying to give us something that's in Jupyter Lab, which this is. It lets us use all of the extensions that we like. It lets us use all of the Python, all the coding, features like Jupyter LSP, all that stuff. It all just works because I touch the DOM as little as possible, right? And then there's other things like Jupyter Lab Fonts, which it depends on, that handles other parts of the task for the fine-grained style. So that's what all this stuff put together is, and we of course want some integration for Rise stuff. So that's what this thing is. I'm gonna pop back to my spooky. There we go. The next one is this one. So what does Jupyter Lab Deck actually do for you? I'll walk through this pretty quick. So it's got keyboard navigation. I've tried to make that as similar to Rise as possible. So it's got this on-screen one, but I've been mainly using space and shift space. You guys probably know what a cell is. Slides made of these cells, and it can be marked down. You can work on it. You know, it can be code. Oh, that was code, yeah. A raw. I don't know. I haven't figured out what to do with the raw ones yet, because I think they do something. I'm just not sure yet. So if you've worked with Rise or you've worked with NB Convert, we've got slide type. That's hidden over in here, right? So you can see as we go through these things, they have different states. This is a null one. This is a fragment, right? Notes can be shown off screen. Haven't written that yet. And so that's still in the DOM. It's just not visible right now. And its position hasn't changed and its movement hasn't changed. It's just turning classes on and off. And that's an expensive way to do things from a performance perspective, but it's not doing that every second. You're not changing the cell every second. So skip cells, yeah, whatever, you got to do them too. And then sub slides are fun, so they take you down into the basement. I really did like that feature from Reveal, and I think that was very helpful, but because it doesn't really have any state, it's entirely reliant on the notebook for state. You got to do some thinking about how we handle multiple stacks. So that tripped up Tony in that presentation we just saw. So yeah, more slides. This is even another slide. Let's get out of there. So Deck is a plugin. This is kind of core to everything. For those, I will close up my trash as I was complaining earlier. Core plugins, you know, Notebook is a thing, File Manager is a thing, Launch is a thing. If the thing already exists in Lab, it benefits you to integrate with that. There's documents that take up a whole spot in the doc panel. There's renderers that give you little pieces of documents. There's themes that change the overall look. And then, of course, there's widgets, and Tony was already showing some of those. So all those things work here. We've got the cell toolbar. Sorry, not the cell toolbar. It's the notebook toolbar. Oh, the documentation's wrong on the internet. Let's fix it. All right. We can use the debugger. I'm not messing with the debugger right now. That goes crazy. We can look at the table of contents for this presentation. That feels pretty good. So if we actually add this out, then it actually puts those numbers up on our page. That's okay. We can go with that for a while longer. So you can look for documents, you can look for things within there. It just works with the native multi-document search, and it looks across multiple documents, which feels great. And Control-Shift-C comes up. I always map mine back over to here, but Tony had the modal one, whatever. It's just a testability thing. The modal one is kind of trash. And so, yeah. So a couple things like status bar. No one wants your status bar in your presentation. Cell toolbar, it doesn't do anything useful during the presentation. Main menu, if you're working through a menu, you're not having fun. So a lot of stuff just got cut, and we might make that configurable down the line. But pretty much everything else, it's in here. It's just lightly hidden. So some documents, we can use hyperlinks to open other documents. So our first notebook is still available. If we go back, brings us right back. Working on the notebook because there aren't any events yet. Like if I was to go to a heading from anotherwhere, it doesn't work properly yet. So I'm gonna work on that. We can go over to a markdown document. This is not yet implemented to be able to turn the common mark thematic breaks for HRs if you speak normal markdown. But there's convention for that in a couple of situations where they already do that. So I'll probably be adding that. But something you could turn off or replace or whatever. Yeah, so you can go pop into images, and I'll show some more about that in a sec. And really anything you can put in the doc panel. So there probably isn't going to be a version of this that works with Notebook 7 because just write a theme and do it. There's not really a lot of point across a bunch of these things because you just don't have enough tool surface. So the themes are fun and might screw up everything, but we could pop back over to the light theme. That didn't rechange my kernel. It didn't reload the notebook. All of my files are still open. I'm just in a different theme. So I'm actually going to go back because I QA'd all this in the other notebook. And then it's got widgets. They look great. The widgets look particularly good if you go to that context menu is getting too long. They look particularly good if you pop over to a side-by-side rendering, which you already get out of Jupyter Lab. That feels nice and a lot of times. And you can also change the zoom, the what have you. So you got some options to play with there. That stuff doesn't work very well with keyboard. So it's kind of a different sort of task. And so, yeah, that's about it. Let's pop back to my last little third of a slide that I want to show. So this one's actually going to take us out of here to a remote site. I don't know what that just did to my lab. I think it would open it in a new tab. We'll find out. Okay, so this is Jupyter Lab deck reporting on itself. So this is a deck that gets deployed to GitHub Pages and contains all of the logs and test logs and whatnot. So here we can see, the test results for the last thing that I actually launched. As we can see, it did fail, but it got re-executed and then it worked the second time. This is the browser-based testing approach that we use. And it's got, if you go all the way into here, it's got some things like screenshots inside of it. So the screenshots are cool. This generates hundreds of screenshots as it's taking its tests. So one of the tools we have for that is we can actually use, we're just going to wait for PyPod to work. Hey, that was fast. So this is now a widget that allows us to navigate through all of the screenshots that were generated while testing that document. So if you click on one of those, you can actually go see it. Hopefully it's not too incriminating. I think it opened that in the background, so I don't want to go there right now because I know it's going to do it. But yeah, so that's a way that you can do stuff. One of the most exciting things that I found while I was working on this was during those robot tests, I'm actually covering code coverage, gathering code coverage. So the, for example, this was the place where I was just working a bunch today, and we see that how many times each function was called. And so it was actually by looking at some of these things like, yeah, here's a hotspot. We're calling this 1,000 times. This is just in a stupid remote control renderer, and we shouldn't be spending that much money on it, right? We shouldn't be spending that many cycles. So there's obviously some work to do here, but it's all very, I'm not, there's no magic here. It's all out there for everybody to see. The presenter, this is where some of the stuff, this is where the dark stuff happens. And so this is just a nice way to get annotated code out onto some place where you can look at it. Sometimes GitLab, GitHub is not the full solution to what you need to show. Of course, got little baby unit tests with PyTest. Does it have a version? Did it ship the JS? Did it, actually tell us exactly what its magic name function is? Just keeping that in there is a very helpful way to keep track of how your stuff works. PyTest HTML does a very nice job. These are bad reports because they don't generate any output, but they should. Usually you don't think about doing standard out in your tests because PyTest by default hides the standard out and the standard error unless it fails. But when you think about your tests as a piece of literature that supports your document, you can actually tell the story just with print statements, right? Caveman debugging works freaking great. PyTest Cov, yep, same old story. Everything is covered because it doesn't do anything. And that's it. So yeah, I pretty much, there's a little bit more I could talk about, but I think that's been plenty. That's all.
Yes, and we need to get to the next share if that's okay.
Sorry, Isabella.
Thank you. No, I should have probably planned this different. I was expecting you both to do one, but I guess that was one. I counted several. If people want to throw in the chat how many demos they think that was, that would be a good laugh. But thank you for the wild ride. Feel free to put any links and I'll throw them in the notes too so people can follow up with discussion if they want, might be good. Thank you so much for all the slides though. I love having a full community call for sure. But with the last few moments, I saw Deborah and Nico. Did you want to share?
Yes, hi, I'm
Hi.
Deborah. I'm
Hello.
from another, we are from another open source community, Dolphin Schedule. We are from China. And Nico Zheng is our colleague, and David is our PMC. Firstly, it's my pleasure to take part in this community core of Jupyter, and I enjoy everyone's sharing about Jupyter. It's impressive. And second, I will cut into the point. We are here today to ask for cooperation. I want to ask if the Jupyter community is interested in holding a webinar together with the Dolphin Scheduler community, or in any other ways, like an online workshop or in personal activities to share something about our project stories or something like this.
Yeah, would you be able to give a link so that people can understand where they would need to go or to follow up, or is there a different kind of next step you would want?
Sorry, I can't understand your words just now. I'm not very good at English.
No, don't worry about it. People might be interested in presenting, but if there is a place that they can go, like what do you need from us to do with that? Is there a link where we should submit? Is there a calendar event we should put on our calendars? That kind of thing.
Yes, it's not set yet. We are planning to hold this webinar with the Jupyter community, and maybe we can hold it on Zoom and ask for engineers from Jupyter and the engineers from Dolphin Scheduler communities, and to share something about the two projects.
Okay,
it's just an initiative. And if you are interested, we can communicate about the details later.
Okay. No, that sounds, there might be people that are interested. We have a really big community. So I think what I would say is it may be easiest to get people involved from the Jupyter discourse. Let me link that. Or if you want to make an issue on the repo I use to manage these calls, and I can give you links there, so you can either do here, you could make an issue, or I can do Jupyter discourse. Somehow I will get to Jupyter discourse. But yeah, no, I think we have all been looking for ways to accept the community calls that we do. And so it might be great to collaborate. Thank you for coming here and asking.
Yes, that's great. So I just need to open this link.
Yeah, thank you for posting that, Sarah. Either one of those, if you want to just reach out to me first, basically the first link, the github.com OneSite Labs Jupyter community call, you will basically be in contact with me because I don't think a lot of people check that, and I can get you more links. Or if you want to go directly to discourse.jupyter.org, you can start a topic there and invite people. And if you want, you can tag me. I'm at Isabella PF there, and we can figure out like who we want to invite, because we have a lot of people that have demoed that would probably be happy to join in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you leave your email in the chat box so I can connect with you?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm taking it. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. No, it would be great to have some other calls. We've tried a few times, so thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe we can talk about the details later with you.
Yep, that works.
Okay, thank you.
It might be excellent to see a dolphin demo at one of the community calls too. That might help us figure out who would be allied with you.
Yes, maybe next time we can invite our engineers to show the demos next time.
That would be really cool.
Yeah,
Yes.
it would be. Hope to see you next month then.
Yes, okay, thank you
Well,
very
or
much.
maybe that's too much, but yeah, thank you.
See you next time.
Yeah, with that, I want to say if anyone needs to go, feel free. I know we are slightly over time. That is my responsibility, so I'll apologize for that. But I also want to say thank you all for being here. It's super awesome. I love having these full community calls. It really, I don't know, energizes me for the rest of the month. So thank you very much. If you feel like giving feedback or feel that you need to, you can in this form. Other than that, I think I'm going to stop recording and we're good to go. So thank you very much.
Okay.